Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this in men's super lightweight news. A Jose Rayo Valenzuela versus Isaac Pitbull Cruz rematch for Rayo's WBA title is reportedly likely to take place on the David Benavidez versus David Morrell undercard January 25th or a February date.
It's not good for Rayo.
I picked Rayo to win the first fight. I don't think I'll be picking him to win the second. I believe that Isaac Cruz, the PBC is more invested in him than they are in Rayo,
right?
I believe that Isaac Cruz fighting the fight the exact same way that he fought it against Jose. If it's a PBC show, he'll get the nod. He'll get the decision. I believe that Rayo was very fortunate to get the level of consideration that he got on what was a Riyadh season show, but he's not going to get that level of consideration on a PBC show.
No.
Just being defensive, moving and punching and circling away from an advancing Isaac Cruz, the judges may have appreciated that stuff on a Riyadh season show, but they're not going to appreciate it on a PBC show.
Why?
Because I think to the PBC, there's more money in Isaac Cruz holding that WBA title than there is in Rayo holding that WBA title, and they'll make sure he gets it. I think Isaac's going to win the rematch. I think he's going to become a two-time super lightweight champion because that's how the PBC wants it.
Problem.
Andy Hirioka is the mandatory challenger to that title. After his last fight, he called out Rayo by name. He wants his shot. He wants his opportunity. Andy's not some nobody.
You can't ignore him as easily as you ignored Ishmael Barroso, who was the WBA's mandatory challenger.
While waiting in limbo, waiting to get his crack at the apple, he ends up in Japan opposite the ring Andy Hirioka, who kicked his ass. Now, Andy is the mandatory challenger.
Oh.
And so, whoever wins the rematch between Jose and Isaac, whether Jose keeps his belt or loses it to Isaac, whoever wins, they're going to have to answer to Andy at some point because he's not some nobody with no money behind him. There's money behind Andy Hirioka.
Wants a shot.
Whoever wins early next year on the undercard of David Benavidez versus David Morrell, shifting the focus over a bit, David Benavidez versus David Morrell.
What about it?
After putting off this fight for something like 2 years, why is David Benavidez all of a sudden deciding to have it? What changed his mind? There were rumors that he would be boxing on the undercard of Gervonta Davis's next fight in the co-main event opposite the ring, Jesse Hart. But when you think about that, you're only going to make but so much money boxing in the co-main event against Jesse Hart. Perhaps not as much as you would make headlining your own show. To figure that you can't make Benavidez versus Hart a main event.
No.
For David's next fight to beat a main event, you're going to have to come up with something better than that. Enter David Morrell, who didn't look too hot in his last fight.
No.
If you're David Benavidez, now might seem like the most opportune time to strike because you need a decent enough fight that you can make it a main event so you can make your money.
Someone better than Jesse Hart.
You figure that you might as well take care of this David Morrell situation now because the longer you wait to make the fight, the more experience he gets, the more dangerous he could become. You nip this in the bud now before it becomes a bigger problem later. The short answer is money.
The reason David Benavidez has finally come around to fighting David Morrell is because it's a chance for him to make more money. More than he would on an undercard. More than he would against Jesse Hart.
Now, David Benavidez versus David Morrell is hardly a money fight in the traditional sense of the word, but David Benavidez figures I'll make more money fighting this guy than fighting that guy because I can't bill this as a main event fighting that guy. That's what I think it is.
He had to come up with something better, so he finally decided to fight David Morrell.
Whether or not you want to pay $75 or $80 to see it, well, I'll leave such judgments up to you. Men's light heavyweight news ahead of this weekend's mega match. Dmitry Bivol has no desire to find out how hard Artur Beterbiev hits. It behooves him not to. From the time he started boxing as a 6-year-old, Dmitry Bivol has drawn inspiration by wondering what it'd be like to be considered the best boxer in the world. As he lifted himself up the fight game's proverbial ladder, he paused to observe the seemingly effortless brilliance of his favorite fighter, Roy Jones Jr., who fittingly dominated the light heavyweight division where Bivol reigns today. If it wasn't for Roy Jones, maybe I would not be here, because I learned from and enjoyed his fights, Bivol told Boxing Scene and Pro Box TV in a Monday interview. I watched him and enjoyed how light he was in the ring, how much he enjoyed being in the ring. It was a joy for him to be there. He was not just going in there to survive, was not working hard, having drama. No, he enjoyed the fight. I liked seeing this. Those who prepare best, Bivol reasoned, are the ones who take the hardness out of an otherwise brutal night in the ring. I'm trying to enjoy the process as well, Bivol said. That explains how effectively Bivol previously dissected four-division champion Canelo Alvarez 2 years ago, refusing to wilt in the face of Alvarez's best punches while repeatedly peppering the face of boxing. It's not hard to see what went wrong for Canelo in that fight, where normally he can pressure the guys at 168 and eventually cause them to wilt at 168. He doesn't have the power to do that at 175.
Doesn't crack as hard.
Guys are bigger, more durable, and tack on that Dmitry Bivol, in a very general sense, is a hard guy to hit. This is a defensively responsible fighter, one of the most defensively responsible fighters in the sport. Stylistically, it was already a bad style matchup for Canelo. Physically,
that just made it worse.
Bivol's taller, Bivol's longer, and he's lighter on his feet. Where you need to be close to him to land anything, he doesn't need to be close to you.
Shooting long-range punches from the outside coming in,
stepping into his punches and landing them. When Canelo then goes to counter, all Dimitri's got to do is step out, and he's out of the pocket.
Out of striking distance.
Out of range of Canelo's punches. It was a bad, very bad style matchup for Canelo.
Longer legs make for longer strides.
That explains how effectively Bivol previously dissected Canelo Alvarez 2 years ago, refusing to wilt in the face of Alvarez's best punches while repeatedly peppering the face of boxing with a steady dose of hard right hands that dictated the bout and paced the UD win. Now comes the next step up. Saturday's showdown in Saudi for the undisputed light heavyweight crown against three-belt champion Artur Beterbiev. To realize this childhood dream, Bivol trained in the mountains of Kyrgyzstan for nearly a month, then kept things rugged with a 45-day camp in Turkey. Savage, brutal, intimidating, all words that describe Beterbiev, and all the attributes of a training camp that Bivol conquered, hoping it will allow him to prevail in the style he so long has admired of Jones. To be honest, all of my skills should be at the highest level. Not only speed, not only movement, everything. My jab, my right hand, my strength. To be aware of danger, Bivol said. Everything needs to be at the highest level.
It better be tomorrow.
Bivol arrives to the fight in peak shape. He was already due to fight Beterbiev in June, but the three-belt champion suffered a ruptured meniscus in early May, prompting Bivol to take a replacement fight against Malik Zinad, who he finished by 6th-round TKO. Beterbiev is saying he's fully healed from the knee injury and doesn't feel any ill effects of being 39 years old. Beterbiev produced a patented destructive showing in his most recent bout, dismantling former super middleweight champion Callum Smith with power shots to set up a 7th-round TKO win in Quebec City. Now,
that was earlier this year.
Knowing how Beterbiev repeatedly beats down his opponents systematically, he was asked how he will handle an onslaught. I don't know, to be honest, Bivol said, chuckling. We will see. Of course, I can see how he's done what he's done, and I've tried in training to be ready for all of this. I've been practicing. In training, we talk a lot about the fight, how it will go, and what I need to be ready. The real fight, I will show. Does Bivol need to taste the famed Beterbiev power to know if he can withstand it?
It's not something that you want to know.
It's not something you want to find out. The goal is not to stand up to Artur's power, to find out if you can take it. The goal is to work around it.
Movement, with defense, with counters, to simmer him down as he tries to come forward.
My honest opinion is there ain't nobody at light heavyweight that can stand up to his power. Not even Dmitry Bivol.
Then why are you picking Dmitry to win?
Because of Dimitri's movement, because of Dimitri's defense, that if anybody can work around this guy's power at this weight, it's gonna be Dmitry. It's Dmitry or nobody. It's not about standing up to Artur's power. Smartly, Dmitry says he would rather avoid that. It's not nice to get punched. Believe me, it's not good to take a punch. Just to understand whether I can take a punch or not, Bivol said. Even an easy punch can be dangerous. Strong punches might not bury you. In a dual-meaning response that follows Bivol being criticized by his wife, Kate, for depriving his two children of financial support, the fighter said, like in life, The hardest punch is the one you're not expecting. Although his knockout percentage is lacking by Beterbiev's 100% standard, Bivol said his answer is knowing he's fully prepared for a 12-round fight. Not an amazing puncher like him, but I still have some punch, he said. I could land some good ones on him. Should he emerge victorious, Bivol will be hailed as an undisputed champion, a conqueror of Canelo, a pound-for-pound elite, and he'll have his choice of accepting an Alvarez rematch, if Canelo truly wants it, taking on the winner of the just-announced battle of unbeaten light heavyweights David Benavidez and David Morrell, with Benavidez standing as his WBC mandatory challenger, or making a move to cruiserweight. If everything goes to plan and we're successful, we'll be in a position for another big fight, Bivol manager Vadim Kornilov said. I always knew from the time I met Dmitry that he was never a boxer fighting only to be a champion. Dmitry is after challenges. To know him, I'd expect that he'll go after whatever's the toughest challenge, whichever fight that might be. Benavidez and Canelo are the two toughest fights after this fight. Kornilov thinks it's ominous that unified super middleweight champion Alvarez did not immediately take a Bivol rematch after losing to him, and then proceeded on a path that has led him to fight former junior middleweight champions Jermel Charlo and Jaime Munguia before meeting Edgar Berlanga in his first title fight in September.
What Vadim is essentially saying is that if Canelo really wanted that rematch with Dmitry, would have had it.
He didn't want to redeem himself, or he would have came and spoken to us, Kornilov said of Alvarez. I do believe that Canelo, now that he doesn't have too many options left, may be interested, but I think Canelo is just playing that card as he needs to. But I don't believe it's his priority. Bivol declined to even mention a future opponent. I don't think about any fight other than Beterbiev. I have nothing in my mind about planning something else, Bivol said. I know if everything goes well, I will have other fights, much easier than Saturdays. That's why I'm focusing on nothing other than Beterbiev.
That's how you have to look at it. This is the most difficult fight for Dmitry, anywhere in between 168 and 175. Nobody else is a threat to him, as much as Artur.
You win this one, all the other ones are easy. Former champion and Hall of Fame inductee Farrell Crotch is going with Dmitry Bivol to win the fight on the premise that Artur is pushing 40 and Father Time waits for no man.
That might seem like a gross oversimplification.
Try to provide a little bit more clarity, at least from my end. The reason I'm going with Dmitry is because of his legs. He's light on his feet, and in some ways so is Artur, but Dmitry's got fresher legs. That pendulum step, when he shoots those straight punches from the outside coming in, it's one motion.
One movement.
Dmitry's best punches are his straight punches, and when he's shooting them from the outside coming in, it gives him good ring coverage, forcing the other man to either cover up or get hit. He can bounce in and out of striking distance, land the punches, and then get out as his opponent goes to counter. If his opponent tries to give chase and bring other punches over, that leaves them open for a punch they don't see.
He can counter the counter.
He's got speed. I think he's got faster feet with faster hands than Artur Beterbiev to effectively beat him to the punch and walk him into counters.
Stay out of trouble.
Stay on the move. While Artur Beterbiev is one of the most destructive and powerful punchers in the light heavyweight division and the sport today, power only counts as much as your ability to land.
If you can make him miss, then it doesn't matter.
And I think that Dmitry Bivol, better than most, he can make Artur Beterbiev miss, and he can make Artur Beterbiev pay. He'll have to be perfect for 36 minutes. For all 12 rounds, he's gonna have to be on his P's and Q's, so I understand why some of you favor Artur over Dmitry, because Artur ain't gotta hit him but so much to hurt him.
But I ain't gonna punk out because of Artur's reputation or because of peer pressure. I'm going with Dmitry.
The official Ring IQ pick for this weekend's mega match is Dmitry Bivol on points.
I think he's gonna get it done.
Now, all throughout the build-up of this fight, Dmitry's ex-wife, Kate Bivol, otherwise known as Ekaterina,
Messy divorce.
she's been taking shots at Dmitry, saying, "Sometimes I wonder why I need it, but then I fix myself and say, why do I need this? I always knew you would betray me. I guess that's karma. I told him many times that there will be a day and he will devalue everything I've done for him. The ex-husband has always denied the possibility. You're my wife. I won't betray you. During the divorce, he said, you are the mother of my children. I will not deceive you. but cheated and betrayed.
So he got a little side action.
Why have money and a mistress, as well as fame and vanity, become more important than a devoted wife and 2 perfect sons? People don't change. You always said that. Does that mean that you've always been this way? You embody everything I fight against. I will not stop fighting until I secure the life of my children. And no, we don't need you. You're a disgrace to my sons. Every day they talk about you with resentment.
And I'm sure you've got nothing to do with that, right, Kate?
The mistress pleaser, the wimp, the traitors of their children are becoming handcuffed. No normal person should ever deal with you or trust you. In 3 days, it will be the day when you either go crazy from grief or lose the remnants of humanity from vanity. This battle will no longer be won. You're gonna lose anyway. You have lost the best sons in the world. They are the decoration of my life. You've already lost. But even the fact that you refused your children does not exempt you from child support.
I don't believe a word this broad says.
That is about child support. 1 minute she's saying the guy's not giving her anything in child support, and the next minute she's saying he's giving her $1,100?
So which one is it?
And how much do you expect? I've no doubts that Dmitry, now making more money than he's ever made in his boxing career, has a lot to do with how adamant she's been the last year. So maybe the guy cheated, and maybe that caused a divorce, and maybe now that he's making all this money, she feels entitled to it after so much time in the relationship. But what part of this is anybody's business to where you're going to everybody with it? This is your dirty laundry, after all.
Naturally, when anyone tells their version of the story, they are the victim.
I don't presume to know all the details of Dmitry and Kate's failed marriage, but this is just her side of the story. There's her side, there's his side, and then there's the truth.
We don't have that.
And that's the point. Just because she's the one pointing the finger, just because she's the one making all the accusations, doesn't mean she's the one telling the truth. She could just be a jilted ex.
Jilted is right. You're popping up on everybody's social media talking about how you want Canelo to beat Dmitry and Artur to beat Dmitry. No matter what, this is the father of your children.
Putting your messy divorce aside, your failed marriage, you're telling me that's what those 2 little boys want to see. They want to see their father get beaten to a pulp.
Or is that just you?
And what you want to see, and how do we know that you're not just weaponizing this divorce and weaponizing these children to get at this man's money? More of it than you're entitled to maintain the lifestyle you maintained when you were together, except you're not together anymore.
Right?
So that when you're not having any luck in that department, you can take to publicly defaming him, airing out what is his dirty laundry, but also yours too.
Can she be trusted?
Just telling you, I have my reservations. Not everything she says is true just because she's the only one saying it, just because she's making this everybody's business. And there are enough horror stories about messy divorces and situations just like this one, where all the broad is really after is the guy's money over what is their failed relationship, their form of penance.
Punishment.
They want to make the guy pay. They want to make the guy suffer.
She says he cheated.
Maybe he did, but that don't mean you get to swim in millions like Uncle Scrooge as a result of that. Seems like another case of a vindictive ex.
There were lots of those.